Hi guys, welcome back to Personal Belongings, the Rituals. Today we're at episode 2 and we're gonna continue reading this book, As a Man Thinketh. And before that, we're gonna pull some cards from these two babies. Disclaimer though, everything from the rituals are gonna be very personal, so take it with a grain of salt and let's flow through as we are experiencing this ritual. Let's start with our random love reading with the Manara deck and Romance Angels Oracles. Just put some cards. Something that my fans need to know about their love life to the ones who are watching. I'm also going to shuffle this deck. Something that you need to know about your love life. What's next in love? Okay. Knight of Air. Forgiving and learning. As you release and heal the past, you experience more love in your present moment. Okay, let's dig into these cards. All right, Knight of Air and forgiving and learning. Yeah, a great pair, I feel. Because a knight is a fast energy, is immature energy, but it's fast and it's quick and is straight to the point. Air here is about intellectual and information, something about the head. Forgiving and learning here is also a process of going through the past, healing, developing a new strategy for handling obstacles in the realm of relationships and love. So the message here, I feel, is after a process of healing the past, tune in to your own wisdom and conclusion after a tough situation, you will receive the information you need to experience more love in your present moment. I hear a fight happened not too long ago, and two people are dealing with this fight by taking a step back, listening to their own intuitions, and coming through with a very logical and very, what's the word? They will come to a very logical and determined point of the idea of this relationship. The advice here is to release whatever is blocking you in the heart, in the mind, in order to receive more love and abundance. Yeah. I think that's a message I need to hear as well. What does it do for you? Let me know. Let's continue with the book of wisdom. As a Man Think by James Allen. By the way, this is a simple self-help book, but it was released in the 1920s though. So a lot of his point of views are, I don't want to say old-fashioned, but it could be more developed in modern days by, just us sitting and unwrapping and unraveling whatever it is that he has to offer. Chapter 2: Effect of Thought on Circumstances. The human will, that force unseen, the offspring of a deathless soul, can hew a way to any goal, though walls of granite intervene. Effects of thought on circumstances. Man's mind may be likened to a garden, which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. But whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall therein, and will continue to produce their kind. Just as a gardener cultivates his plot, keeping it free from weeds and growing the flowers and fruit which he requires, so may a man tend the garden of his mind, weeding out all the wrong, useless, and impure thoughts, and cultivating towards perfection the flowers and fruit of right, useful, and pure thoughts. By pursuing this process, a man sooner or later discovers that he is the master gardener of his soul, the director of his life. He also reveals within himself the laws of thought and understands with ever-increasing accuracy how the thought forces and mind elements operate in the shaping of his character, circumstances, and destiny. I think I've watched these reels of this super famous singer whom I don't remember the name of, but she said that whatever positive thought that you've created, you also create a negative thought alongside with it. And which one you choose to believe and choose to spend time on is gonna shape your mind. And personally, for me, it is almost like the negative thoughts was just like a lot of criticisms I've heard growing up, just like mindless comments from people that I kept within me and believe in those. And it took me a long time to actually say, well, I don't think that is true anymore. I don't believe in that anymore. And creating new thoughts and believing in them is also a challenge for me. Thought and character are one, and as character can only manifest and discover itself through environment and circumstance, the outer conditions of a person's life will always be found to be harmoniously related to his inner state. This does not mean that a man's circumstances at any given time are an indication of his entire character, but that those circumstances are so intimately connected with some vital thought element within himself that, for the time being, they are indispensable to his development. Every man is where he is by the law of his being. The thoughts which he has built into his character have brought him there, and in the arrangement of his life there is no element of chance, but all is the result of a law which cannot err. It says there. This is just as true of those who feel out of harmony with their surroundings as of those who are contented with them. I have done some research on this book, and they do say that he has a tendency to oversimplify human struggles. And I can see it clearly, but it is still a very useful book. Circumstances grow out of thoughts. As a progressive and evolving being, man is where he is, that he may learn, that he may grow. And as he learns the spiritual lesson which any circumstance contains for him, it passes away and gives place to other circumstances. Man is buffeted by circumstances so long as he believes himself to be the creator of outside conditions. But when he realizes that he is a creative power and that he may command the hidden soil and seeds of his being, out of which circumstances grow, he then becomes the rightful master of himself. Yeah, I think it plays a really good hand here with, not being a victim of your life and not indulging in the victim mindset. That circumstances grow out of thought, every man knows who has for any length of time practiced self-control and self-purification, for he will have noticed that the alteration in his circumstances has been in exact ratio with his altered mental condition. So true is this that when a man earnestly applies himself to remedy the defects in his character and makes swift and marked progress, he passes rapidly through a succession of vicissitudes. Yeah. The soul attracts that which it secretly harbors, that which it loves, and also that which it fears. It reaches the height of its cherished aspirations. It falls to the level of its unchastened desires. And circumstances are the means by which the soul receives its own. Every thought seed sown or allowed to fall into the mind and to take root there, produce its own, blossoming sooner or later into act, and bearing its own fruitage of opportunity and circumstance. Good thoughts bear good fruit. Bad thoughts bear bad fruits. The outer world of circumstance shapes itself into the inner world of thought, and both pleasant and unpleasant external conditions are factors which make for the ultimate good of the individual. As the reaper of his own harvest, man learns both by suffering and bliss. Following the inmost desires, aspirations, thoughts, by which he allows himself to be dominated, pursuing the willows, the whips of impure imaginings, or steadfastly walking the highway of strong and high endeavor. A man at last arrives at their fruition and fulfillment in the outer conditions of his life. The law of growth and adjustment everywhere obtains. When I start reading this book, I was like, okay, that's a lot of words. But then I think, let me just try and think good thoughts and really recycle my mind and my inner state of being. Let's see what's gonna happen. And good thing happens indeed. Justice is exact. A man does not come to the almshouse or the jail by the tyranny of fate or circumstance, but by the pathway of groveling thoughts and base desires. Nor does a pure-minded man fall suddenly into crime by stress of any mere external force. The criminal thought had long been secretly fostered in the heart, and the hour of opportunity revealed its gathered power. Circumstance does not make the man, it reveals him to himself. No such conditions can exist as descending into vice and its attendant sufferings apart from vicious inclinations, or ascending into virtue and its pure happiness without the continued cultivation of virtuous aspirations. And man, therefore, as the Lord and Master of thought, is the maker of himself, the shaper and author of environment. Even at birth, the soul comes to its own, and through every step of its earthly pilgrimage, it attracts those combination of conditions which reveal itself, which are the reflections of its own purity and impurity, its strength and weakness. Men do not attract that which they want, but that which they are. Their whims, fancies, and ambitions are thwarted at every step, but their inmost thoughts and desires are fed with their own food. Be it foul or clean, the divinity that shapes our ends, it's in ourself, it is our very self. Only himself manacles man. Thought and actions are the gaolers of fate. They imprison, being base. They are also the angels of freedom. They liberate, being noble. Not what he wishes and prays for does a man get, but what he justly earns. His wishes and prayers are only gratified and answered when they harmonize with his thoughts and actions in the light of his truth. What then is the meaning of fighting against circumstances? It means that a man is continually revolting against an effect without, while all the time he is nourishing and preserving its cause in his heart. That cause may take the form of a conscious vice or an unconscious weakness, but whatever it is, it stubbornly retards the efforts of its professor, and thus calls aloud for a remedy. And we come to 3 examples of ignorance. Men are anxious to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves. They therefore remain bound. The man who does not shrink from self-crucifixion can never fail to accomplish the object upon which his heart is set. This is as true of earthly as of heavenly things. Even the man whose sole object is to acquire wealth must be prepared to make great personal sacrifices before he can accomplish his object. And how much more so he who would realize a strong and well-poised life. He is a man who wretchedly poor. He is extremely anxious and that his surrounding and home comforts should be improved, yet all the time he shrinks his work and considers he is justified in trying to deceive his employer on the ground of insufficiency of his wages. Such a man does not understand the simplest rudiments of those principles which are the basis of true prosperity, and is not only totally unfitted to rise out of his wretchedness, but is actually attracting to himself a still deeper wretchedness by dwelling in and acting out indolent, deceptive, and unmanly thoughts. Here is a rich man who is the victim of a painful and persistent disease as the result of gluttony. He is willing to give large sums of money to get rid of it, but he will not sacrifice his gluttonous desires. He wants to gratify his taste for rich and unnatural viands and have his health as well. Such a man is totally unfit to have health because he has not yet learned the first principles of a healthy life is a healthy mind. Here's an employer of labor who adopts crooked measures to avoid paying the regulation wage and, in the hope of making larger profits, reduces the wages of his work people. Such a man is altogether unfitted for prosperity, and when he finds himself bankrupt, both as regards reputation and riches, he blames circumstances, not knowing what he is the sole author of his condition. I have introduced D3's cases merely as illustrative of the truth that man is the causer, though nearly always is unconsciously, of his circumstances, and that, whilst aiming at a good end, he is continually frustrating his accomplishment by encouraging thoughts and desires which cannot possibly harmonize with that end. Such cases could be multiplied and varied almost indefinitely, but this is not necessary, as the reader can, if he so resolves, trace the action of the laws of thought in his own mind and life. And until this is done, mere external facts cannot serve as a ground of reasoning. That's a good point. And that'll be all for today. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you next week.